Welcome to another edition of About Stout. This is our first for 2013. We are halfway through our academic year already, and we're eagerly awaiting the start of the spring semester. I'm joined as usual by Chancellor Sorensen. Welcome, Chancellor. We'll be joined in the second half of the show by Phil Lyons, who is in his first year as Vice Chancellor for Administrative and Student Life Services. As I said in the opening, we're between semesters, and so that means we have obviously the first one under our belt. General thoughts on how you think the first semester went?
Well, I think we had a good first semester. We were down about a little bit, about 100 students. Our freshman class held, the returning student was a group that did not return to the tune of 100. And it cost us about $1 million in terms of revenue, so we had to adjust to that. But as you look at that and adjust for that, and we can, and we did, it's been a very smooth semester, a good semester. I think we have good programs educating very fine young people. So overall, very successful.
We obviously, not that long ago, you went through commencement again.
You're right.
It probably never gets, I mean, even though you've been here, this is your 25th year, it probably never gets to be old hat, does it?
Well, that is my favorite day of the year is commencement, because you have all these young people, many first generation, first in their family to go to college, and it's a real celebration for the young people, for the family, the parents, the grandparents. It's just a lot of fun to see them launch their careers out of here.
And you get to talk, you get to interact. I mean, you obviously interact all the time with students, but they're
very positive. So that day it's all positive, Doug.
Yeah, I was just going to the story that I like the best, and you know this one is the woman who got her degree in 2.5 years. She's a non-traditional student, 40 years old, came here after breaking her neck, and just the amount of work that she put in and how proud she was of that degree.
Well, some amazing stories like that. The sheer tenacity of deciding to go to school after that accident with kids, coming back and finishing the 2.5 years into a master's program now. So it's just extraordinary what these people can do. Yeah,
and I mean, there's basically those kinds of life-changing stories happen all the time.
Well, I think it's very, what we always forget, I think, or we put to the side, college is it's a life changer for everyone. These young people that go through college, they get a degree, they launch a career. It's going to change half a dozen times before they ever think about retiring. And for most, be very, very, very successful. They'll be better citizens, they'll stay healthier, they'll make more money, they will have careers, raise families. All the evidence shows that a degree changes one forever.
Right. Something else that has the possibility of changing at least one program here is recently we received a $1 million donation to help aid the property management program, which is a new degree program,
right.
About 3 years old on campus. That was quite a day.
Well, the story is amazing, because normally when you go out to seek money, we've been successful. We have our foundation is pushing $40 million. We've raised about $2 million a year on the average here. Normally you cultivate a donor, you propose what you'd like to have. In this particular case, this company came to us. They found us. They hired 2 of our interns. They liked them. They returned and said, with no proposal in front of them, we want to give you $1 million. And that's exactly what they did. So I think it's extraordinary, because the talent of the students convinced that company that we were very, very good. They came back to our school. We didn't know who they were. They were treated very, very well. They liked the treatment. They liked the people. They liked the program. They did all the investigation on the internet. They said, we want to give you $1 million. And so it shows that those that sell who we are the graduates of our programs.
Right.
It's a great story there that we should pay attention to.
So the program is the Property Management Program, which is going to change its name shortly to the Real Estate Property Management Program. What do these people do?
Well, they manage big properties. And you go to a major apartment complex, and one time in my life I lived in one with 1,000 different units. They're managed by someone, and they have to hire people to run them. They have to they market the complex, but they are managers of a very complicated and complex organization. This is what they do. as in their careers.
And it sounds like from what the representative of the company, it's Widener Apartment Homes, said during when she was presenting the donation, there's a lot of jobs out there.
Oh, absolutely, and they're good jobs. They start at $45,000. They have a ladder to make a lot more money in their lifetime if they stay there. These are very good jobs and great demand out there for them. This company has to hire 60 people a year to maintain their corporation. And there are only 4 programs in the country, and we're one of the 4, and according to Widener Properties, the woman that came here, the director of recruitment, that she thinks we're the best. So I think that's a real feather in our cap.
And we're going to use the money for scholarships. We're going to use the money for professional development. Obviously, this program, because it's new, really does need, some sort of boosting. I mean,
That's right.
to get the word out. And
well, one more unique thing about this, this is their first year they recruited here. They've hired 5 graduates, more than any other school in the country. And that's, again, a real compliment to our faculty, to our students, to the program itself.
Yeah. How, with the economy improving, is the whole philanthropy, area getting easier? Is it about the same, would you say?
It's really hard to say. I think that more people are realizing that they need to support education like us, because this provides a margin of excellence that we don't have otherwise. We've been very fortunate. We have people out there that have been very generous to us, that they want to give back now to their campuses. I think that when people spend 3 or 4 decades in their profession, suddenly an obligation kicks in. I owe something to to the school that helped me to attain this. And I've met, I don't know, a half a dozen very, very good donors to the campus that will tell you, would tell us right now if they were there, the empty chair, that they owe their career to this university.
Right.
And I think that's what they realize suddenly.
Yeah,
so in that sense, it gets easier.
I think back to one of our alumni, Bill Hendrickson, who was on campus earlier this year, and really talked about, and he admitted it, not the best high school student that ever graduated, that ever came here, and just what a remarkable thing this has done for his life, basically.
He's a very, very successful professional today.
Yeah. That's the positive news. On the other side is, it seems that there's been more and more talk recently among our state officials about the problems that we're experiencing here and across the UW system with faculty and staff salaries. There was a newspaper series that highlighted that problem. Are you optimistic that the word is starting to at least...
Well, clearly, we've had 4 years without a pay raise for our faculty and staff. That's incredible when you think about it. We are seeing that more people are leaving for better job offers or more secure job offers. We see the pools of candidates for open positions fewer in number. And I think we're reaching that crisis point where if we don't find a way to pay our faculty and keep them here, we'll have a major issue with delivering high-quality education. In my opinion, I think officials are finally realizing, this is a problem that we have to address. We're not being competitive with neighboring states. We're not being competitive on the national scene. We're not being competitive in key areas of our academic programs. And I think that finally people are realizing that. I'm somewhat optimistic that we'll have a pay raise in 13.
Milwaukee Journal Sentinel basically said our faculty salaries are 20% those of their peers.
Well, we are 12% at the full professor level and 20% at the associate level. Yeah. That's pretty low nationwide.
That is.
For what we call a world-class system, this is not good news. We have to change that.
One of the other things that seems to be a hot topic among both the governor and the legislature is preparing students not for maybe some of the more traditional, in some of the more traditional areas that higher education does, but really a more emphasis on preparing students for work. I assume, you feel pretty good about where UW Stout stands in that debate.
Well, we're well positioned, and we always have been. This school has always been very sensitive to the market, sensitive to the needs in society. And you can be overly sensitive, so you become just a training program for, for the private sector. We're not that. We provide a well-rounded education, and yet our programs are always linked to real careers, to the real world. So we're well positioned for that. Our placement rate remains very strong. Our starting salary is very competitive. So I think that we have historically developed a school that is doing exactly what the state wants.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the 98% placement rate, which you mentioned, really is what legislators want to see out of all institutions.
Well, parents want to see that. Doug, your son's going to graduate in May. He has a job offer.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy about that.
And this is January, so
right.
that speaks to what we do really very, very well.
And the other issue, obviously, is the state budget and its potential impact on UW Stout. Obviously, the governor won't be releasing his budget until February, but I'm guessing that you and other chancellors aren't quite as nervous this time as you were 2 years ago.
No, but the fact is, though, that we're being squeezed by fewer allocations by the state government. The feds are cutting back on their support for public higher ed in all kinds of ways, and there's a real discussion now about let's cap tuition, so that we only have two sources of income, Doug. We have state support, some federal support, and then you have fees and tuition. So if they squeeze us toward the middle, it presents a real challenge for public higher education, and we'll deal with it. We have in the past, but that is the central issue. You have to have money to pay a people-intensive organization, which we are. You must have faculty in the classroom, whether it's on the internet or face-to-face. You have to have faculty who teach the courses who are well qualified.
Well, that's a nice segue, because our guest is your person who's in charge of making sure that
Money man.
in charge of making sure that the books balance, and we do have enough revenue. So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to welcome in Phil Lyons, who is the Vice Chancellor for Administrative and Student Life Services, and we can talk budgets and other issues. Joining us now is Phil Lyons, who's in his first year as Vice Chancellor for Administrative and Student Life Services. But Phil is not new to UW Stout. Actually, him and I started about the same time here. Welcome, Phil.
Thanks, Doug.
Why don't we talk just a little bit about, as I said in the opening, that this is your first year in the job. But why don't you talk a little bit? How'd you happen to come to UW Stout?
Well, I started out at SIU Carbondale, which is part of the system that our former provost is now at. And I got a bachelor's and a master's degree there. I got involved in higher education because I became the student body president at that campus and ended up serving.
Were you quite a rabble-rouser?
No, it gave me a good insight into, at a very young age, the larger mission of higher education. And I ended up then serving as a student regent or the student trustee on that system, and decided that it'd be a good career path. And then I ended up 15 years at St. Louis University as associate vice president. Kind of a quick stopover. I did an international stint too, and earned a master's degree.
You just went over there to golf, though.
Well, I did quite a bit of golfing, but yeah, Scotland.
You just went this.
How is St. Andrews as a course?
St. Andrews is not that difficult a course, but the winds that swirl around that course made it extremely difficult to gauge shots. And if you hit a ball offline, you're pretty much you're not going to find it. But international degree at the University of Aberdeen in Scotland. 15 years at St. Louis University, working with auxiliary units in St. Louis, and have been here for 6 years and worked with housing and dining, the student centers, campus card, athletics. It's been a great transition, great school.
So tell me, what does the Vice Chancellor in your position do? When we were talking before, obviously money's one of them. But it's not all of it.
It's the primary responsibility is the chief financial officer, chief business officer of the institution to look, I think, at all things with.
So when the chancellor says, "I want to do this," you have to find the money. You have.
I find the money.
We work very closely with each other.
That's right. But
We do.
Return of investment. You know, when we put everything as a resource at the institution, and so when you have these resources, what kind of return on that investment are you getting? And to look at all things through that prism and to give the chancellor the best advice that I can. It also supervises many of the non-academic administrative functions of the institution, human resources, the physical plant, health and safety, which includes police and parking, student life services, student health services, so many of the non-academic administrative units.
This is, I mean, the way the job is functioned here. This is a key.
Oh, absolutely, a key position for us.
I
rely upon his advice every day, daily actually, and we talk almost daily about issues on campus. So.
And he's always supposed to say yes. Right?
Well, no, the beauty of this position is he can disagree, and he does, and we work out the differences, but normally it's around, can we do this or not do it, and how do we do it if we want to do it. So no, we have a good relationship, and it's very honest, I think, and open to disagreement when it's necessary.
We're talking,
and the beauty of his position is he is the chancellor.
We were talking in the first segment about the pressures that this institution and other institutions are facing because of what is happening financially with state. Have you seen basically kind of this job become tougher over the years?
Well, I've seen it become much more important, I think, than I think it once was. Well, before that, we had Diane Moen in this position, and like Phil, Diane was very open, honest, and very blunt when it came to analysis. And so it's become much, much more important because of the fiscal constraints. And every time we have a fiscal issue, I'm on Phil's doorstep saying,
right.
How do we handle this? And explain to me so I really understand what this is and how do we handle it. Yeah, much more important than it was before, I think, and central to all the decisions we make.
Yeah. What have you seen? Phil? Is obviously in your tenure so far, what's been the biggest challenges?
I had the benefit of receiving at least 5 years of great tutelage under Diane. She, as the chancellor said, was very straightforward, very honest, very blunt, and I think that was a great quality. One of the, I think, challenges of that role is that, I had a bit of a learning curve on the academic financial side of the institution. I knew the auxiliary operations very well, and it's taking some of those hard looks at how you're spending money that was the same kind of thing that we did in auxiliary and taking it over on the academic side. That's been a transition that I think we've adapted to very well. One of the things I'm very blessed with is that we've surrounded ourselves with some extremely talented people. Right. Kim Schulte-Schoberg, Curtis Wieland on the finance side that are really very, very talented financial analysts that can really drill down and I think do more with less, because I think that in the current environment where we're seeing less resources, that's being called upon from all institutions to really do more with less.
Wouldn't it be nice just in your tenure, you heard someone say, Chancellor, we're asking you to do more with more?
Yeah, right.
Wouldn't that? Wouldn't that be nice?
My personal career, I became a dean of a college in Michigan in 1978. That's the first time a dean had to say no to all the requests that came in, and that's been the mantra during my career as a dean, a vice president, as a chancellor. Maybe yes, but a lot of no's because of constraints on budget. I came in at just the wrong time, I think.
Any other challenges that you see? Obviously, getting
well, you were talking earlier about the faculty salaries, and I think that is, if there's any great threat to us, the the level at which we're paying our faculty from some of the other institutions that I've been at is a threat to our very existence, and the fact that our core mission is really imparting education to the students. And if we can't bring some of the best faculty to the classroom, then
well, I agree, and part of my job is dealing with legislators, and I've talked to a lot of them so far, getting ready for legislative session. I've said issue 1, 2, and 3 is faculty salaries, and we can talk about other stuff if you want, but and I think that really does have to be our mantra going forward. Is issue 1, 2, and 3 is faculty salaries, and which is connected to that is stable support for the institution, so we don't see these wild.
Yeah, predictable.
Predictable, so we at least know where we're at year to year, because if I guess that's a question. If you don't, how can you plan if you really, we don't know what the governor's budget is going to look like for 13, 15. Mm-hmm. What the degree is. I mean, we may have kind of an idea, but we really don't know. How do you plan when you really don't know what kind of revenue base we're going to have on July 1st,
that's exactly
2013?
Right. And that's the challenge. As the resource person, how do you plan, for the future? And that, I think, is one of the biggest challenges. I was at a private institution before here, and there was a bit of stability in the fact that you internally knew where you were going because you were in charge of your own. You looked at your expenses, you looked at your revenues, and all they entailed, and you knew what those revenues were going to be, and then you closed that budget gap of your expenses to your revenues. Here, there's so many moving parts, and that there's a resource depletion when it comes to faculty salaries, that it's a very big challenge that I think we and many of the other UW institutions especially need to consider.
Doug, there is one kind of a bright spot on the horizon. The UW, with the blessing of the state, are trying to do the budget a little bit differently, called block grant budget. Right. So right now we have, if you looked at our budget today or maybe yesterday, we'd have 10 or 15 silos. You put money in silo 1, you can't move it to silo 3, even though you need silo 3 money. Right. They're changing that so that money becomes money. No matter what the source of the money is, you can spend it no matter where that problem is. And we're not there yet, but they're really pushing toward that concept. And that's what Phil experienced in a private school. They didn't care where the revenue came from. They had this issue, and they had to close the difference, and they did. They're trying to do that here, and I think you'll see much, much more progress to give us more flexibility internally on how we spend that money.
A great example of that is our utilities fund. So the state used to appropriate and hold those funds, and as we used utility dollars, it was paid for from the state. Now the institution gets those funds, and if we save money by cutting costs and energy, which is one of our goals, we can use those funds for other reasons. So the block grant is a useful tool.
Yeah. So. Yeah, obviously I haven't been in the job that long, but I assume you have goals. What are some of your goals for your division and possibly for the university as a whole?
We have a lot of goals. We've actually kind of talked about some of them in the course of this conversation, but we have a 2-year planning process which was laid out by Diane Moen, which we still utilize, and all of our departments have a wide variety of goals. Some of the ones that I'm very excited about. Human Resources is implementing a customer relations module called Ask HR that we hope improves the response that they get from our Human Resources office, and also gets them prompt and immediate feedback. Our physical plant, Harvey Hall, on the horizon. McAlmont Residence Hall renovations
for the people that aren't aware. Harvey Hall is our largest academic building on campus, and that's going to be shut down for just under 2 years.
Yeah, 30 months is what the schedule currently. We hope that's shorter once we get into design.
And so faculty's going to have to move out. We're going to have to find new places to hold classes, et cetera. So that's going to be, but it'll go smoothly.
They have. Our building projects have gone smoothly through good planning.
Yes, they
Good
have.
execution.
Doing more with less. So our student health services right now is implementing third-party billing. For billable procedures and services that are performed through our student health services, we're billing insurances to keep the segregated fee costs low. We have a number of committees that are looking at cost savings, including taking a hard look at fleet vehicles, printing services. We have an energy committee to look at driving down our energy costs. And we have a number of groups that are looking at maybe generating revenues from leveraging our academic buildings during the summer, maybe bringing in camps and conferences, bringing students in who haven't seen our campus, but at the same time utilizing the facilities when they're empty to be able to drive revenue.
In listening to Phil talk, I don't think a lot of people really understand just how much of I mean, obviously people see what we do, we educate students, but how much of a business and how much of a...
Phil's division's a business, basically. And it has to break even or make a little bit of money, but not profit, but he has to break even. So it's a business, and they have those divisions like food service have to be very, very, very cautious on how they operate that so they don't go in the hole.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, it's almost, in a lot of ways, too, almost like a small city, because we house people, we feed people, we take care of them, we shovel actually, your division shovels the sidewalks, and parking, and everything else. So it really is kind of operating a city, kind of within a city. Housing is one of your former areas and still is in a general way. How's that whole area changed?
Wow. You know, the online student could really threaten the entire way that we deliver housing in a higher education format. Transfer students, this idea of the 17, 18, 19-year-old student that's coming into a traditional double room occupancy, and that is a standard part of the transition to college, I think is going away. Now, having said that, I think that there is a demand and a real value to students going away from campus and learning to live with people in that kind of environment. One of the things that I used to do was I would talk to parents who were coming during orientation, and you would ask the parents of the audience, a couple hundred out there, how many of your students have their own rooms? 98% of their hands would go up. And for many of these students, it's the first time that they've ever even experienced having a roommate.
Yeah.
And so there's a valuable educational experience just in that.
That means, I mean, bricks and mortar is never going to go away, is it?
No, I think I think higher education is a rite of passage in so many ways, and one is to get away from mother and father, get away from their hometown, and live separately. And that's how it's going to be here. I think we're going to see a fundamental change because of online programming.
Right.
We now have roughly, maybe not quite, 2,000 students online. Right. Some will never see the campus till they graduate. Right. And that's going to continue in intensity, I think, and it won't threaten the very core, but it's going to change the very core of what we do in a very fundamental way.
And it is also very much a business, and so we need to keep an eye on the costs and have a sensitivity to the costs of housing and dining on our campus.
That's a good place to end this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That does bring us to another edition of About Stout. We're going to be back soon with another show after the start of the spring semester.
What about that Rose Bowl?
Yeah,